Mississippi is a state of 3 million people that has been quietly falling apart. It has been losing residents nearly every year of the past decade. More than half of its rural hospitals are at risk of closing. The capital city's water system is no longer run by its mayor. It is run by a federal court. Mississippi isn't collapsing the way Detroit collapsed, or the way Gary or Flint or Youngstown collapsed. There is no single industry that left. No one factory that shut its doors, no defining moment you could point to and say, that is when it happened. What's happening in Mississippi is quieter, slower, and in some ways harder to fix. Like the coal towns of Appalachia or the factory floors of the Rust Belt, it is a brain drain playing out in slow motion. Except nobody is making a documentary about it. Start with the numbers, because the numbers are stark. In 2024, Mississippi's population stood at just under 2.95 million, about 45,000 fewer people than its peak a decade earlier. The state ranks 49th in the country for population change over the past 10 years. The only state that has done worse is West Virginia. But raw population isn't the most alarming part. The most alarming part is who's leaving and who's staying. More than 1 million people born in Mississippi now live in other states, a brain drain that has been quietly accelerating for decades. The state's median age jumped from 36 to 39 in just 10 years, aging nearly twice as fast as the rest of America. Life expectancy for men is now 68.6 years, and for women, 75.2 years, both well below the national average. In the past 4 years, 16,000 more Mississippians have died than have been born. That's not the profile of a state growing into its future. That's the profile of a state quietly shrinking out of it. If you want to see what that decline actually looks like on the ground, look at the hospitals. According to a December 2025 analysis from the Center for Healthcare Quality and Payment Reform, 36 of Mississippi's rural hospitals are now at risk of closing. That's 54% of all rural hospitals in the state. 23 are at immediate risk, meaning their financial reserves can cover losses for only 2 or 3 more years before the doors come off the hinges. Nationally, only Arkansas has a higher percentage of rural hospitals on the brink, and Arkansas has already watched closures accelerate in a way that should be a warning to every county in Mississippi. The hospitals on that list are not obscure clinics. They include Greenwood LaFleur, Alliance Healthcare in Holly Springs, Delta Health Northwest Regional in Clarksdale, Baptist Memorial in Boonville, Highland Community in Picayune, Panola Medical in Batesville, and Baptist Memorial in Yazoo City. In most of these counties, this is the only hospital. There is nothing else. The closures are not hypothetical. Humphreys County Memorial Hospital in Belzoni closed its doors back in 2013, and the community it served in the heart of the Mississippi Delta has never fully recovered. The at-risk hospitals on today's list are watching that happen to their neighbors and wondering if they are next. When a rural hospital closes, the math of an entire community changes overnight. The school loses enrollment. The grocery store loses customers. Property values drop. Young people leave and do not come back. The elderly remain stranded in places that can no longer care for them. A community can survive a lot of things. It is very hard to survive without a hospital. And it's not just closures. Services quietly disappear long before the doors ever shut. 68% of Mississippi's rural hospitals already don't deliver babies. Most never did or stopped years ago. For pregnant women in rural Mississippi, the median drive to a hospital with labor and delivery is now 35 minutes, and in some counties, well over an hour. Mississippi also carries the highest cesarean section rate in the country, partly because the rural hospitals that still deliver babies earn more on surgical births than on vaginal ones. In July 2025, the federal One Big Beautiful Bill Act was signed into law, cutting roughly $1 trillion from Medicaid and Affordable Care Act insurance plans over the next decade. In Mississippi, where about a third of the population relies on Medicaid or the Children's Health Insurance Program, those cuts are projected to push more rural hospitals across the line from at-risk to closed. The Mississippi State Department of Health has warned that the ripple effects on an already strained public health system could take years to fully measure. The hospitals are one layer of the decline. The infrastructure underneath is another. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave Mississippi an overall grade of C- on its 2024 infrastructure report card, an improvement from D+ in 2020, but the underlying numbers are uglier than the headline suggests. Bridges earned a D+, and the percentage of bridges in good condition actually fell during this period. The number of bridges with weight restrictions, meaning a fully loaded truck or a school bus may not safely cross, grew by more than 400. Roads earned a D-. Roughly 1 in 4 roads where data exists is in poor condition. The Mississippi Department of Transportation can rehabilitate only 5% of its poor condition roads each year, and the state estimates an annual funding gap of $400 million on roads alone. Mississippi also holds the highest roadway fatality rate in the country, 25 deaths per 100,000 people every year. Bridges that cannot carry trucks, roads the state cannot afford to fix, and drivers dying at the highest rate in America. That is not the result of one bad year. That is the cumulative weight of decades of underinvestment. And then there is Jackson. Jackson is the capital and the largest city in the state, and in many ways the place where every thread of Mississippi's quiet decline pulls together. The water system has been failing for years. In August 2022, flooding overwhelmed the O.B. Curtis treatment plant, and the entire city of 150,000 people lost reliable drinking water for weeks. Schools shut down. The National Guard trucked in bottled water. The Justice Department got involved. Like Flint, Michigan before it, Jackson's water crisis did not emerge from nowhere. It was the visible endpoint of years of deferred maintenance, insufficient funding, and a shrinking tax base that could not keep up with aging pipes. What happened since is the part most people do not know. Jackson's water system is no longer run by Jackson. A court-appointed federal manager now oversees it, and a separate entity called JXN Water operates the treatment plants and distribution system under the supervision of a U.S. district judge. The system loses more than 40% of the water it treats to leaks. The industry standard is closer to 15%. An estimated 6,000 buildings in the city receive water without any account on the system at all. Fully restoring it, the mayor has said, would cost $2 billion. Federal infusions so far amount to roughly $600 million. The city itself is also hemorrhaging people. In 2024, Hinds County, the county that contains Jackson, with a population of roughly 227,000, lost more residents than any other county in Mississippi, roughly 2,500 people in a single year, walking away from the state capital. When a capital city's water is managed by a federal judge and its surrounding county is shrinking faster than anywhere else in the state, that is not a local problem. That is the canary in the mine. So why is all of this happening at once? Part of it is geographic. Mississippi is the most rural state in the South, with about half of its residents living outside any metro area. The Mississippi Delta region, one of the most economically distressed areas in the entire country, anchors that rural reality with some of the highest poverty rates and lowest life expectancies anywhere in America. Rural America has been losing population, hospitals, and economic gravity for decades, but Mississippi started from a lower base, and the slope has been steeper. Part of it is political. Mississippi is one of 10 states that has not expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. Governor Tate Reeves has repeatedly blocked or declined to advance Medicaid expansion, a decision repeated every legislative session that leaves rural hospitals absorbing more uncompensated care, leaves more residents uninsured, and leaves federal dollars on the table that most other southern states have decided to take. Part of it is demographic. When prime working-age people leave a state, and 1 million of them have, the people who remain are older, sicker, and lower income on average. That shrinks the tax base, which shrinks public services, which gives the next generation another reason to leave. That's the quiet part. There is no single villain in this story. No bankruptcy, no plant closure, no Hurricane Katrina. Just a long series of small decisions, each one defensible on its own, that together produce a state slowly hollowing out from the inside. The Mississippi story doesn't fit the usual American decline narrative. There is no iconic abandoned skyline, no bankruptcy filing on the front page of the New York Times, no obvious villain to blame. What there is 1 million people born in Mississippi who now live somewhere else. 36 rural hospitals counting down to insolvency, a capital city whose water runs under federal court supervision through an entity called JXN Water, the highest roadway fatality rate in the country, the second worst rural hospital crisis in America, and the second worst decade of population growth in the entire United States. Mississippi isn't loud about any of this. That's the whole problem. A state that collapses dramatically gets a federal task force. A state that erodes quietly gets a paragraph at the bottom of an annual census report. And here's the strangest part. Some of this is actually reversible. The state has working ports on the Mississippi River. It has a small but real inflow of international migrants. It has a college town corridor around Oxford that's still drawing people in. The $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts could be reversed. The Medicaid expansion the state has refused for over a decade could still be passed, and Governor Reeves or his successor could sign it tomorrow if the political will existed. There are levers that could be pulled. They mostly aren't being pulled. So the slow drift continues, a little quieter every year, until one day quietly falling apart becomes the past tense. And the question stops being why Mississippi is falling apart, and starts being why nobody noticed in time.